Hey YouTube, this is Alexander, and today I'm going to be bringing you my Acer C720P Chromebook video review. Now, if you guys are interested, I also will have my unboxing video and my thoughts video linked down below next to the subscribe and like buttons. But without further ado, let's go and get started. So as mentioned in my unboxing video, the top of the laptop feels really nice. It's sort of like a glossy finish. It's nice and smooth, while the bottom of the laptop is sort of a textured finish that feels kind of nice. You of course do have those four rubbers in the corner so you can set it down on a spot, and you do have the fan grills. Now the fan actually, you might be thinking it sounds really loud, but it doesn't. In quiet environments, you can hear it purring a little bit when you put it to use, but it's really not a big deal. The fan is very quiet and there's nothing to really worry about in terms of how loud the fan is here. Now, something that you guys might be able to notice here on video is the trackpad, how it's a little bit uneven in the bottom corners. One corner sits flush with the edge of the device, while the other corner is a little bit indented. It doesn't hinder performance at all, and the trackpad is really nice to use. It's just something that looks a little weird. It's more of an aesthetic thing rather than an actual usage thing. So I found the trackpad to work 100% of the time as you would expect it to. The gestures are really nice to use. Two fingers swiping up and down will move you up and down in a specific web page. Two fingers swipe left or right from the edge will move you either back a page or forward, similar to the back and forward keys up top. The three fingers are nice to use if you want to swipe left and right to get between your tabs, or swiping up will open all the activities you have open on your Chromebook. It's a really nice trackpad that I enjoy using. Now the keyboard is a similar story but a little different. So the keys are pretty nicely spaced apart for my use. I enjoy using the keyboard. It's really comfortable to use for me anyway. But I did notice first when I unboxed it and started using it a bit, it feels a little cheap, the keyboard. And even after having used it for about a week, it still feels cheap. It just feels like something that's not going to go away. The keys don't really have good feedback for when you press them, but that's the only downside to this keyboard, really. You get used to the fact that you don't have a delete key, and some of the other keys are placed a little bit differently, or maybe different than usual. But other than that, I really enjoy this keyboard. It's really nice for me to use, but people with maybe larger fingers might have difficulty pressing it because it is a little bit more compact since it's a smaller laptop. But I really didn't find anything wrong with the keyboard. I enjoy using it on a daily basis. So you guys might have questions about those speakers and how they perform. Well, for a $300 laptop, they perform actually pretty well. They get really, really loud, although when you bump them close to max or at max, you just kind of distort the sound that's coming out of them. They don't really have any bass, which isn't really expected of them, but they are pretty good for speakers that come on a $300 laptop. I noticed that in most cases, I never even had to put it anywhere near max volume. In a Hangout video call, I had it less than halfway. I had it barely even turned up actually, and the other person was speaking normally. In YouTube pages, I have it maybe around half volume, while the video volume is actually full. And in pages like SoundCloud and other streaming services, I have it maybe around half or so, a little less than half, and it's fine like that, really. I never had to really put it past half. The volume is just really nice. It gets loud, and as long as you don't put it full volume or near full, you should be fine. So something I really enjoyed was this area where you can take a look at your Wi-Fi information, Bluetooth, you can change the volume, and then you can also get a little bit more information if you click in Google Now, or that little zero next to the system information, which is where I found the touchscreen to be pretty useful. It's really easy to just go ahead and tap there rather than try to move your mouse over. And I realize first world problem, move your mouse over, oh my gosh, but it's actually pretty easy to just tap. Now I found that the estimated time left is not very accurate. For example, it says I've got 3 hours 44 and then it changed to 48, and it's at 94%. I found in my usage, I can get through an entire day if I'm not on a Hangouts video call for very long. I can get through an entire day and into the next day watching YouTube, reading news articles, doing whatever I would normally do in a browser, just on my Chromebook, and I can get through into the next day with about 20% left in that second day. So it's really fine in the battery life, I would say. Now, if you are on a Hangouts video call for a few hours, you will probably notice it's going to go down a lot quicker. For example, I had a Hangouts video call open and I had Netflix streaming, and I got maybe about 3 hours on battery life before it pretty much needed a charge. But other than that, I would say battery life is really fine. Now this is the 2 GB version, so that means it's got 2 GB of RAM, which is really, really low for laptops nowadays. But Chrome OS handles it pretty well, I would say. You can see I've got quite a few tabs opened here, and Chrome OS is actually able to handle it all. I actually have done a little bit of a trick though, where you can swap some of the hard drive space or SSD space for extra RAM, and it sort of helped a little bit. But even when I didn't have that little trick enabled and I was using just 2 GB of RAM, I noticed web pages were fine at loading. The only time I ever experienced lag or hiccup in scrolling was when the web page was still loading content. That's the only time I ever had an issue with scrolling and it not being fluid. Other than that though, everything works just fine. The performance is great on this Chromebook. Now the touchscreen is something that's actually pretty cool too. I enjoy using it for quick things like just scrolling or tapping play on something, or if I'm going to end the Hangout video call, it's really nice in that case. Switching between tabs with your fingers is a little bit cumbersome though, because you kind of have to try not to hit the X, which I've found myself doing quite often and my fingers aren't fat at all. But scrolling is really nice. Like I said, just tapping at the bottom for the Google Now notifications is nice. It does have a software keyboard that you can use, although I enabled it one day and disabled it a few minutes later because I just couldn't really get on board with using it. It's really, really nice that they included the option, so I can't knock Chrome OS for that. But I just struggle to find a reason to actually use it when I have the hardware keyboard right below that. So as mentioned, performance is just fine, and I haven't really noticed any huge problems. The display doesn't look that great though, to be honest. It's 300 bucks for this Chromebook, and you get what you pay for in terms of the display. Colors are washed out, it's not really vibrant, there's no contrast there. But I mean, it's not a huge deal since you should know that when you go in for purchasing this Chromebook that there are going to be some drawbacks. Now the Chrome Web Store, I said it before and I'll say it again, is just not as robust as something like the Google Play Store or iTunes App Store. I realize this is an actual laptop and not a mobile device, but I feel like it should just have better selection of apps. It does come with some pretty nice stuff. You can of course get the Word online. When I downloaded something like Netflix or SoundCloud, it basically was just a link to open up that web page. It does have quite a bit of offline apps, so there's really no shortage of offline apps here, but I feel like the quality is just not there. Google is going to be allowing developers to port their Android apps to Chrome OS though later this year, so I am definitely looking forward to that. So for example, if you wanted to put Vine on this and watch your favorite Vines, you will eventually be able to do that, which will be great that Android apps will be on this guy because I think it really, really needs it. It does have a big selection of apps in the Chrome Web Store, but I just feel like the quality isn't there yet. So the screen does have some weird things that happen. You can see here I'm just lightly touching the sides and I've got some weird jail looking bars there. I don't know what makes it happen, but even when I'm not touching the display, sometimes I'll just be on a Hangouts video call or watching YouTube video, and things will just start to appear on the screen that are not supposed to appear. That's pretty much all I have to say about that. The camera, though, is not that great. I'm just going to come out and say it. If you guys were looking for a great webcam, this is not it. The camera, of course, is never really great on a laptop, but in this case, it's really not great. But in case you want to take those selfies, you do have that camera app pre-installed when you get your Chromebook and turn it on. Something that I really thought was annoying about this Chromebook were the ports. The headphone jack was really, really tight. It felt like it wasn't even the right size, and it is. It's just really tight. Same thing with the USB port. Putting it in was a little difficult, but taking it out was really difficult. These are pieces that I feel could be the easiest thing to break on this Chromebook if you're not careful. It's just really hard to get things in and out of these ports without doing damage to either what you plugged in or the actual port. So definitely take note of that if you guys are thinking about picking this up. I'm sure they'll get a little bit loose and a little bit more worn over time and a little bit easier to use, but after a week, they're still pretty tight. Something I thought was a little weird when you're plugging in was the charging cable. As you can see, it looks like it would go in all the way, but it doesn't actually go in all the way, and I almost broke it the first time because I thought it continued to go in and it didn't. It just sticks out a bit, which is sort of common for laptop chargers to not go in all the way. But I just thought it was a little bit weird because it's almost misleading in a way. You think it's going to go in all the way and it doesn't, but it doesn't. And charging this guy is actually not a problem. It's not like you're sitting around waiting for it to charge so you can use it. Using it while it's charging is actually not a problem either. So charging is pretty fast on this guy. Something that I really enjoyed was the 7-second boot up time, which I found to be most of the time actually quicker than 7 seconds, maybe around 5 to 6 seconds, 7 at max. This guy boots up really fast from cold boot, and if you just have it sleeping, so if I just shut the lid right now and turn it back on, it's instantaneous, everything is there. Now if you guys haven't ever used an 11.6-inch laptop, just know that it's really, really small. Here's my phone for comparison. It's just really small and it's really difficult to actually use two windows at once side by side. So if you guys can get past the keyboard feeling a little cheap at times, the trackpad being a little bit off in my case and possibly for you, but not actually hindering performance, the screen being a little bit washed out and not really representing the colors very nicely, I would definitely recommend this guy. It's a great Chromebook. It's got really good battery life I found in my use cases, and there's really not much you can knock it for. The performance is great. Android apps are coming later this year, hopefully. It's just a great Chromebook all around with a touchscreen, all for about 300 bucks. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe down there for more, and if there's any questions you guys have, leave a comment and I will get back to them as soon as I can. Don't forget to follow me on Google+, Twitter, and Instagram for everything I do online and keeping up with when I'm going to post a video and anything that's going along with a video. I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.